and today's we'll be talking about Halloween H20, the 7th Halloween film in the franchise. After the failure of Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, people probably thought the Halloween franchise was dead. 80s horror franchise slasher movies were dying down in the 90s, and horror fans were burnt out with slasher movies until Scream parodied and reinvented the slasher subgenre. No one had no idea what to expect next with another Halloween sequel movie around this time. The question was another Halloween sequel in the cards. The death of Donald Pleasant was unsure if another Halloween movie could happen. Who else could they bring back to the franchise? The answer, Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis decided to come back to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the first Halloween movie that jump-started her career as an actress. This was her first Halloween movie appearance into the second movie. I can only imagine fans' reaction at the time when she decided to come back to the franchise, because she was a big major star to the first Halloween movie. They originally wanted John Carpenter to come back and direct this movie, but he turned it down because he asked for too much money. Jamie Lee Curtis also wanted Deborah Hill to come back, but she turned it down also. Instead of Halloween H20 being directed by John Carpenter, it was directed by Steve Miner, directed Friday the 13th Part 2 and 3. As much as he did a good job directing this movie, part of me wishes John Carpenter directed this movie, and who knows what he would have done differently than Steve Miner's direction. This movie was almost a possibility to go direct to video. If that happened, it could have been the end of releasing new Halloween movie sequels to theaters. This is a follow-up sequel to the first two Halloween movies. It ignores Halloween 4 through 6. After the disaster of Halloween 6, H20 was a rebound, a breath of fresh air of the Halloween franchise. Just when I thought the Halloween franchise couldn't get any dumber, and it totally redeems itself with this movie. The writers decided to ignore Halloween 4 through 6 and just make it a follow-up sequel to just the first two Halloween movies. No more Thorn trilogy logic. As much as the Thorn mythology had interesting ideas, I'm glad they got rid of that. The movie just focused on Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. That's it. The Thorn mythology was getting out of bounds and trying way too hard. The first two Halloween movies and this movie makes it a trilogy of Laurie Strode. It makes it a solid trilogy. Jamie Lee Curtis does a good job in this movie. She's very compelling in this movie because of how much she's been through. She's traumatized, whacked out of her head. She suffers from PTSD, and she's an alcoholic. She's a broken down person, and it makes her character a complicated person. Laurie's not the innocent virgin like she was in the first movie. She goes by the name Carrie Tate. She faked her death, and she's a teacher at this high school academy in California. Fans have said she's a little bit better written in this movie than she was in the first movie because she's older, matured, and experienced. Her character's written like the way Ripley and Sarah Connor were written in Aliens and Terminator 2 Judgment Day. After the opening sequence, I like the dream she has of Michael Myers, how scared she was, still worried Michael Myers might still be alive, and that Michael Myers is not dead. That painful, tragic Halloween night in 1978 still haunts Laurie. It shows how Laurie never got over that night, how she lost all of her friends. There's a scene where her son John says to her mom, "You watch them burn," referring to Halloween 2. In case you're wondering, how did Michael Myers survive the fire burn in Halloween 2? A detective says they never found his body that night. It's nice to see Jamie Lee Curtis come back as Laurie Strode in the franchise, and to see Jamie Lee Curtis celebrate a movie that got her career started, despite being an established major star at this point in her life. Jamie Lee Curtis embraced where she started her career. Some famous actors look down upon where they started their career in horror movies before they were famous. Like, for example, Jennifer Aniston never likes to talk about how she started her career in the first Leprechaun movie. Jamie Lee Curtis embraces Halloween. She said this movie is a love letter to the first movie and the fans. Thank you, Jamie Lee Curtis. Here's a fact about me right here that will surprise you all. This is the first Halloween movie I saw as a little kid and my intro to the franchise. Before the internet, before even knowing how Halloween was a franchise that goes back to the 1970s, not knowing there were more Halloween films before this one. I saw this on VHS tape at my neighbor's house when I was like 5-6 years old around the time. This movie freaked me out, but not as much as the first one. Janet Leigh, Jamie Lee Curtis' mother, is a cameo in this movie. Supposedly that car she drives was the same car she drove from Psycho. Her cameo pays a little homage tribute to Psycho. Halloween was inspired from Psycho then again. As a kid, I did not see the connection. Now I look at this and think this is cool that Steve Miner paid tribute to two Scream Queens. Her mom says to Laurie it's Halloween, everyone's entitled to one good scare, a throwback line from the first Halloween movie. One of John's friends referenced Psycho, how John still stays with his mother when he's older, he'll own a motel. Another throwback to the first Halloween movie when Laurie is teaching a lecture to the class on Faith and Frankenstein. Michelle Williams' character looks out the window and sees Michael Myers stalking her. Also, when John and his girlfriend find their dead friend's body and Michael chases them, seeing Sarah hanging having Christmas lights are reminding me of Drew Barrymore's death in the first Scream movie. Michael once again slits Laurie's arm. It's never a sequel in a franchise when they have to pay tribute homage to the first classic movie. Rather than taking place in suburban Haddonfield, it takes place in Northern California, but the opening scene starts off in Landon, Illinois. Thank goodness they did not call this Michael Myers Goes to California. Their version of Jason Takes Manhattan. This is the only Halloween movie that does not take place in Haddonfield. If it took place in Haddonfield, then Laurie Strode would not be running away or hiding from Michael Myers in a witness protection program. A lot of fans complain about this. For me, I can see why. At the same time, I'm okay with this and get past this. It doesn't bother me that this movie does not take place in good old Haddonfield. At the same time, yes, it's never a Michael Myers movie without Haddonfield. The school is not a creepy, scary atmosphere like the first movie was. Laurie Strode's son, John, played by Josh Hartnett. This was Josh Hartnett's first movie. His second movie, The Faculty, came out later that year, directed by Robert Rodriguez. He does a good job in this movie playing the son of Laurie Strode, who is overprotective of him and won't let him go live his life. And he's sick, tired, annoyed, living with his mother's overprotection shadow, and she's sucking the life out of him. There's a sense of drama between John and Laurie. At the same time, you understand why Laurie's overprotective of her son. It was like a Terminator 2 vibe with the mother and son relationship, but he's not a future war hero like John Connor. In case you're wondering who is John's father, we don't know, it does not matter. You don't see John in the last act, he's a throwaway character in this movie. In early drafts, John was originally written as a cocky asshole. His original name was going to be Mitch. He was originally going to date Sarah, Joni Little Keefe's character. Molly was originally written as an ugly duckling who had a crush on John. As interesting as this was, I'm kind of glad they did not go in this direction. John's girlfriend and his other friends are not interesting. It's just the usual, they're just there, and we know who lives and dies, the usual cliches. His friend Charlie was played by Adam Hand-Bird, who you all might recognize who played young little Alan in the first Jumanji movie. After this movie, Josh Hartnett became a star for a while, then he disappeared from the limelight. But he was recently in Oppenheimer. Like a lot of unknown actors who started on horror movies, then became big stars, it's not one of his best ones, but he does an okay job in this movie, Josh Hartnett. Before the writers decided to ignore the events of Halloween 4 through 6, there was originally supposed to be a scene where Laurie, as a student, is not doing well in the class. He does an extra credit assignment to improve and boost his grade up. When Laurie reads the essay, she's in shock as she realizes that Michael Myers has still been alive all these years, that she's not crazy and wrong. Laurie also would have been in shock and sad to find out her daughter Jamie died 3 years ago. Laurie would have run to the bathroom and throw up after reading the essay report, feeling guilty on leaving her daughter behind, thinking that being separated would have prevented Michael Myers from finding them both. But she was wrong. Sarah was almost written as the student who wrote the essay on the Haddonfield murder events from Halloween 4 through 6. This could have been a cool scene, but again, it somehow worked to ignore the events of Halloween 4 through 6, and this is just a scene with just the first two Halloween movies. They almost originally wanted a character called Rachel Loomis, the daughter of Dr. Loomis. I don't think it really was hinted on Dr. Loomis as a married man in any of the previous Halloween movies, to my knowledge. Also in the book I have on Taking the Shape, I read the original climax in this movie was going to be a massive helicopter or a bus chase sequence, culminating the downed helicopter spinning out of control and decapping the shape with its out of control rotor. This idea sounds like something out of an action movie like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It doesn't surprise they did not go with this idea because of budget reasons, and it's not fit in a Michael Myers movie. Originally they wanted to call this movie Halloween 7, The Revenge of Laurie Strode. That could have worked, but I'm okay with this title despite every time I hear H20, I think of the chemistry formula of water. But I get what H20 stands for. Halloween 20 years later. Nurse Marion Chambers, played by Nancy Stevens, who was a minor character in the first two Halloween movies, comes back. I forgot to mention how the character Nurse Marion Chambers is named after two characters from the first Psycho movie combined, Marion Crane and Sheriff Chambers. She comes back home from work to find out someone broke into her house. She calls the police at the neighbor's house. After the teenagers investigate, her house is clear. She finds her office is a mess. Michael Myers broke into her house to find out she had a file on his younger sister, Laurie Strode, was still alive after all these years. Despite calling the police, Michael Myers tricks her and the police arrive at her house, not knowing she was next door killed by Michael Myers. Rapper LL Cool J plays a security guard named Brian who's trying to be a writer. This was LL Cool J's first movie. I remember the team watching him in interviews saying he remember seeing the first original Halloween movie when he was a little kid back in 1978. John asks him to let him out so he can get a gift for his girlfriend for Halloween for date night. Ronnie says no because he'll get fired if he lets John off the campus. So Johnson says you accidentally pushed the gate button and they got out without him knowing it, so he agrees with the plan. When Michael Myers sneaks into school as a kid watching this scene, I thought he was going to kill LL Cool J. Adam Ark is the son of Eleanor who plays a high school counselor, and he's the boyfriend of Laurie Strode. It's hard to tell the truth until she finally tells him her real name is not Carrie Tate, and that she's the younger sister of Michael Myers. He shot LL Cool J by accident thinking it was Michael Myers walking by. His death scene, Michael Myers sneaks up behind him, he stabs him in the back, lifting up reminds you of the kill scene in Halloween 2 with one of the nurses. Michael Myers is played by stuntman Chris Duran. He also did stunts in Scream 2 as Ghostface. He's the only stuntman actor I can think of to play both Michael Myers and Ghostface. I read that prior to getting this part, he said he never saw the previous Halloween movie or knew anything about the franchise. He said he went in the role blinded as the role of Michael Myers. I guess they did not think twice about bringing back Nick Castle for this movie. If you didn't watch the Halloween movies, you can at least watch the first one, the second one, since it was a follow-up to just the first two movies. Michael Myers is not like a built bodybuilder like in the last previous movies. Instead, looks the way he should in the first movie, a regular-sized thin guy. He's not a great Michael Myers, but he does an okay job as Michael Myers, Chris Duran. Michael Myers is supposed to be in his 40s in this movie, but in real at the time, Chris Duran was in his mid-30s, but that doesn't matter really. Also, Jamie Lee Curtis nicknamed him Shavy during the making of this movie. In my Halloween 4 The Return of Michael Myers video, you'll remember I mentioned there was going to be a scene where Michael Myers flips the desk over to find Jamie Lloyd. In this movie, they used that concept for this movie. After Michael Myers kills Nurse Marion Chambers and the two teen boys after the police investigate the crime scene, I like the opening intro of all newspaper events of Michael Myers. Laurie Strode being a survivor of Nurse Chambers was Loomis' caretaker until he died. Then you have Dr. Loomis modeling from the first Halloween movie, but it's not Donald Pleasant's voice, it's veteran character actor Tom Kane. I'm not sure it could have been a legal issue to get permission to use Donald Pleasant's voice. The music is composed by John Ottman. His score to this movie is alright, but again, it's no original Halloween score. If John Carpenter directed this movie, they probably would have used John Carpenter's original score. Once again, the mask Michael Myers wears in this movie is another one I did not like. This is one of the few Halloween movies where they use different masks in the movie. In the opening scene, they use the mask from Halloween 6. Some scenes of the mask he wears in most of the movie, they use CGI, which does not make any sense. It's also weird seeing Michael Myers' eyes for his mask, not the usual dark eyes with no expression. I read they originally wanted Charles S. Dunn to play detective in this movie as a main character who tries to help protect Laurie. This would have been cool and awesome, but sadly his character was written out. A young and unknown Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in this movie, but he's killed early in this movie before his name is shown in the opening credits. They don't show it's hinted and imply that Michael Myers stabbed in the face with ice skates. Here's a fun fact about that scene. When the nurse finds him dead, Plane 9 from Outer Space is being played in the background. Being a fan of this movie as I've gotten older, one thing I know is fans point out this movie has a post-Scream knockoff vibe, and part of that is because it was written by Kevin Williamson, who wrote the Scream movies. There's a scene in this movie where Michelle Williams and Joey Lynn O'Keefe's character are watching Scream 2 on television. In a TV cut they used Mike Myers' dark comedy, So I Married an Axe Murderer, but deleted that for obvious reasons to avoid mocking, confusion, or pairing the two different names of Michael Myers, the horror villain, and Mike Myers, the comedian. Believe it or not, they originally wanted comedian Mike Myers for a cameo in this movie, but he said no. Just like Scream reminds you of the cliches of surviving horror movies. Also, you're not a fan of the Scream movies, you may or may not like this vibe. For me, I like Scream, get past that. At the same time, I can respect and see why this movie may or not appeal to everyone. Why did they have to make it a Scream vibe? They could have just made it its own thing. My favorite part of this movie in this series is when Laurie tells John and his girlfriend to go to the neighbors next door and call the police. She breaks the gate door button to decide after all the years of running, hiding, being scared, she decided to finally face her fears and finish off Michael Myers once and for all. For once, Laurie's the stalker stalking Michael Myers. I like when she shouts, "Michael!" Music plays. Laurie's a badass. She kicks Michael Myers' ass. After Laurie stabs Michael Myers and he falls down a balcony in the school, Laurie's trying to finish him off. LL Cool J stops her thinking he's dead. Anytime I watch this scene, I joke. I'm like, I love you, LL Cool J, but screw you. You were wrong for stopping Laurie for finishing the job. Just when you thought it was going to be another cliffhanger ending, where there was going to be another sequel, Laurie Strode points a gun at the paramedics to put Michael Myers in the van. She drives off. Laurie's like, no way, I don't think so. Michael wakes up, she steps on the brakes, he smashes the ambulance window, she runs him over and the car lands on Michael Myers' back and he's trapped. Laurie shouts his name Michael, he reaches his hand out to beg her for forgiveness. She still loves him, but she can't forgive him what he did for killing her friends. In a way, this part could have gone either way. Michael could have grabbed Laurie and killed her, but thankfully not. Laurie chops his head off, the end. As a kid watching, I was applauding like, yes! Laurie killed Michael Myers, finally! She breathes and exhales. It's finally over that Michael Myers is gone for good.
Halloween H20, like I said, is another good one in the series. It has good effects. And Jamie Lee Curtis in this one, she's supposed to have her son in this one, and but this is another cool one in the series, and this is Jamie Lee Curtis's first time back since part 2, and then she continues in some of the newer ones too. But yeah, I would recommend Halloween H20 if you haven't seen it. Or even if you did it, I watch it at times. It's a movie. It also stars LL Cool J, the singer, in this movie. But yeah, I recommend this movie.
Whether some people like this movie or not, in my own opinion to this day, I still think this is the best Halloween sequel to date. It's not great or perfect, but I enjoy it for what it is. If you don't want to watch the Thorn trilogy, watch this one to see if this could have been a good farewell to the franchise. This is how the franchise should have ended, but of course, this movie made money, they got greedy, they had to push it to the limit.